If you do not understand white supremacy, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you do understand will confuse you. In all of these 9 areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Anywhere on the planet, minute by minute, day by day, all of the time, all of the time, all of the time.
All righty. Good morning and welcome to the April the 1st, 2025 edition of the CRCS, which is commonly called the Counter Racist Code Show. Neely Fuller Jr.'s Code Show. And we are absolutely delighted to have you aboard. I'm Mr. Bobby, and with me again today is Gate. And we will be taking some questions in the chat. Then we will do a variety of different subjects. Again, trying to find our way as we navigate through this new format. So please be patient with us. We are not perfect, but we are trying to reach perfection. So I'm Mr. Bobby. Let me introduce to you that can view us, Gate. Gate, how are you this morning?
Like Mr. Fuller said, I'm still learning. I'm still learning like the rest of us are. Mm-hmm. That's straight out of the code book. Mr. Fuller had that in his book. So when somebody's asking you, how you doing, an appropriate reply according to code is, I'm still learning. I'm still learning. We're still learning this platform. We're still learning our way through this so-called system of racism and white supremacy. And so we're here today bring this show. This show, of course, was Mr. Neely Fuller's baby. He had it for 5 years. And Mr. Bobby was the co-host of the show. We had the show for 5 years on Blog Talk Radio. And before that, it was even on Talktainment Radio. And then also the past 5 years, I was the producer of the show. So Mr. Bobby and I have been at the side of Mr. Fuller, learning, still learning, and we're still learning today.
Yes.
I invite you to tune in each week as we continue to find our way in this platform. Please go to producejustice.com for updates on the show, on Produce Justice, on Mr. Fuller's work. Mr. Fuller, even though he's joined the ancestors, he's by no means done. He has left some notes. He's left some unpublished works that we will be distributing and publishing in the very near future. You can also get his books by going to producejustice.com. He has 3 books. He has the original book he wrote in 1984, and then he wrote the Word Guide in 2010, and in 2016, he wrote the revised and expanded edition of his original book. So you can get all those books by going to producejustice.com. And I'm just glad to be here today. Now, later in the show, we're also going to talk about, we're going to have a passage from Mr. Fuller. And he said, part of code is minimize your contact. In other words, don't talk to me unless you come in with some constructive dialogue. Don't come to me with confusion. Don't come to me with discord. If you come into me and you want to talk to me, come to me on how we can dismantle the system of white supremacy and dispense justice throughout the land. Mm-hmm. So, Mr. Bobby, I'm glad to be here today. I'd like to welcome everybody who's tuning in for the first time. And for those who've been hanging in there on a regular basis, we'd like to re-welcome you. And let's go out here and instill some justice across this land.
Yes. And just to pick up on where you left off, there is a documentary that you can get on YouTube with Mr. Fuller and Dr. Randy Short, when Mr. Fuller stressed that we are looking for results and not hot air. You go to YouTube and you can Mr. Fuller and Dr. Randy Scott. It's about 45 or 50 minutes, but you hear Mr. Fuller in a different tone than what you normally hear him. I went through it this week again to make sure that I would be factually correct on what Mr. Fuller was saying, because a lot of times, a lot of people are just are speaking hot air with no results. That's and right. We don't want this. We want results. And this is how you get that, by starting to tell the truth. Gate, you mentioned how to get in contact with the show. I know you said going to producejustice.com, but what were those other two on Facebook and YouTube?
Absolutely, Mr. Bobby. If you're out there in radio land or digital world land, we've gone digital. We've gone digital now. You can get the show by going to producejustice.com. Also, if you're on Facebook, you can get it by going to Produce Justice Neely Fuller Jr. That is the official Facebook page. There are other pages out there. Some are, I don't want to say they're being nefarious, but some are causing confusion. But the official page, which is Mr. Fuller's, part of Mr. Fuller's organization, Produce Justice, is Produce Justice Neely Fuller Jr. That's the Facebook page. Also, you can get us on YouTube by going to Produce Justice. And also, you can actually get the show on Instagram by going to Neely Fuller Produce Justice. I'm sorry, Produce Justice Neely Fuller. So we're getting this information out here as best we can and on as many platforms as we can, because this justice is serious business. As a matter of fact, Mr. Bobby, I was thinking today, and like I say, I have for many years, as I've stated, I've been as a student of Mr. Fuller, and I was thinking this morning when I woke up, and I just happened to look down at the calendar, as I so often do, because sometimes you have to look at the calendar to know where you are, know what's going on.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I realized that today was this strange holiday called April Fool's Day. And it's a time when people plays these harmless pranks and jokes. But there's one big joke that we need to take seriously. And that's this fanciful notion that the racist and white supremacy will ever willingly offers justice to non-white people. Mm-hmm. I mean, it reminds me of that narrative. Remember that naive guy, Charlie Brown? He used to try to kick that ball from under Lucy. And that little diabolical Lucy, she would yank that ball away from him every time.
Yeah.
So today I'm going to do this, Mr. Bobby. I'm going to lay out some wishful thinking that some of us hold on to, somehow thinking that the minds of the racist and white supremacy are going to change. And in the end, what they're doing to us every time, they're yelling, April Fool, the joke's on you.
Yeah.
Now, there's this notion that the racists are going to treat non-white people as equals in all areas, all 9 areas of activity. That's economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, sex, and war. Guess what? If you believe that, April Fool, the joke's on you. There's this notion that the racists and white supremacists are going to engage in meaningful conversation about race and inequality. That somehow, rather than burying their heads in the sand and engaging in name calling for justice seekers, that they are actually going to sit down at the table and seek equitable solutions. If you believe that, I say April Fools, the joke's on you. There's this notion that they're going to acknowledge their shameful past of mistreatment and apologize for their behavior, rather than whitewashing history to ensure a new generation of misinformed and miseducated, and that they might actually teach history as it really happened. If you believe that, guess what? Once again, April Fool, the joke's on you. They may realize that the hypocrisy in their unjust application of the law, and they might start to enact policies that apply equally to everybody, rather than changing the laws to fit their diabolical narrative, that they will abide by their own laws and even modify laws that are unjust. If you believe that, then April Fool, the joke's on you. They will, let's imagine that one day they might ensure that all those who need help will get it. And those that need help the most will get the most help.
Yeah.
Rather than using their billions to an accumulation of wealth, which most of it, by the way, is ill-gotten, instead of using it for gain and greed and oppression, that they will actually use it to solve the problems of the world, such as hunger, illiteracy, violence, poverty, and disease. If we believe that, the joke's on us, April Fool. And finally, I would say, there's this notion that the racists and the white supremacists might actually dismantle the system of racism. The very system that benefits them in all areas of activity. There's this notion that this might happen and that they might actually replace it with a system of justice. Now, if you believe that, you're like that Charlie Brown who was chasing that football. Time and time again, he ran up to kick that ball. And Lucy, that little diabolical Lucy, she would yank that ball out the way every time. And Charlie Brown would fall on his back. Now, what does that mean? That means it's time for us to stop seeking justice from without. We have to find justice from within. We have to collaborate. We have to work together. We have to support our own institutions. Now, we're in this system, and we can't divorce it overnight, but we do have to embrace a sense of independence, a sense of caring for each other, and do not adopt the malicious ways of the people who have been attempting to oppress us over all these years. Mr. Bobby, that's what I woke up thinking this morning on this April Fool's Day. And I say, don't let the joke be on us. We're small people. We're better than that. We've seen this play too many times. We know the usual suspects and the regular characters.
Yes.
We can do better.
What you just said, Gate, excuse me, can be verified. It's a fact. It can be verified if one would care to listen to a message by the late Malcolm X. I mentioned it, I believe, last week. A message to the grassroots, and the message to the grassroots, or the ballot or the bullet, in which Malcolm explains it in detail, just exactly what Gate has said or have been talking about. As a matter of fact, I call them the 10%. They were afraid. How were they afraid? Well, because in 1968, there was a lot of legislation that was introduced to do what? I call it a pacifier. For example, Job Corps, CETA, the Peace Corps, all these things that were put in place to calm you down, to make you look like you were in charge of things were equal. In fact, it got so bad that they introduced suits against discrimination, or they called it affirmation, and so or affirmative action. And this was prevalent from 1968 until 81. That can be verified. Look that up. This is not something that is just off the cuff. But a gentleman by the name of Alan Bakey filed a lawsuit against the government saying that because he was white, he was being discriminated against. So for 13 years, there tend to be, it looked like there was going to be some justice, but behind it, there really wasn't. The same people who perpetrate this evil were still in charge of all those movements, but it just looked like that we were in charge. In fact, it's a known fact that the leaders of the so-called March on Washington where Mr. Bobby calls it a farce on Washington, were chosen. And they met at the Carlisle Hotel in New York City and set up this place and set up who would be our leaders. Roy Wilkins, Ralph Abernathy, Martin Luther King. There was a couple of others, 3 others that were in there. And they set those up to be our leaders. They chose our leaders. It's a fact. They did that. And went all the way up to 1981 when, and this is a fact, when Ronald Reagan, with the air traffic controllers strike, took control of all that and began the dismantling of the programs that tried or make an attempt to be equal, which I believe was false anyway, because they were still in charge. And anyway, after 1981, and with the air traffic controller strike, he busted the unions and began to take control. And it has not been the same ever since. Banking fees and all that stuff went toward corporate, and it still is. Yeah, all that what I'm saying can be verified if you look that up. That's what they did, and that is exactly what they're doing now, which allows 25 to be in place, which has been in place. Agenda 47, that's what you publicly know about, but you don't know about the other agendas that are ongoing at the same time. Gate?
Well, Mr. Bobby, you have brought some good knowledge here. What I do want to do is bring into the conversation some of our people who are tuning in. We got a comment from Gerald Lawson, who says, I do believe Mr. Fuller suggested to minimize conflict. Mr. Fuller left the blueprint for the victims of racism and white supremacy to develop a code, or paraphrase. When I say, Gerald Lawson, that's a good comment. What I will say this, though, the code is like any book. Everybody has their own interpretation. So to put it in one's own word is not to minimize or discard or to marginalize the code itself. But as Mr. Fuller has also said, everybody has a VGQ, victim guaranteed qualification. And so I'm sure Mr. Bobby himself, I can't speak for Mr. Bobby, I have no intent to ever mischaracterize anything that Mr. Fuller said. As a matter of fact, in the second half, we're actually going to have Mr. Fuller's exact words. So we don't have to guess. We're going to have Mr. Fuller's take on no contact, no conflict, and we will hear exactly what he said. And that's one of the things I want to make sure that we don't cause any confusion. And definitely what we don't want to do is mischaracterize anything that Mr. Fuller has ever said. So thank you, JR. So please stay tuned. And let's to the second half, we're going to actually bring Mr. Fuller's words, his exact words, onto the stage. And yes, and I want everybody to feel free to engage in dialogue. If you see something or hear something or read something that Mr. Fuller said or wrote, and you interpret it one way, and every word in this language of ours is subject to interpretation, and everybody has their own right to see it and discuss it in their own way under the system VGQ.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mr. Bobby.
Yeah, that is correct. TSA, which is thought, speech, and action, whether it be a good action or a negative action, the testimony is in your daily living, good or bad, right, wrong, or indifference, is setting a legacy, and you have to understand that's why your words you have to be careful of your words, because your words actually are seeds that will produce whatever you spew out. So if you spew out things that are negative, what do you think is going to happen in time? Negative things are going to happen. But if you spew out positive things, then that too is going to grow. It's going to grow. And you have to understand it. So being careful of what you say and what you do, what you think, thought, speech, and action, TSA. You have to do that. You just can't say it. You have to be an active participant in doing it and in living the life that we are supposed to live. Go ahead, Gate.
Hey, Mr. Bob, you remind me of one of our great artists, George Clinton, Funkadelic. He did this song back in the 70s, Good Thoughts, Bad Thoughts. Travel like a king, listen to the inner voice, a higher wisdom at the work for you. Conquering the stumbling blocks become easier. With your mind in tune with the infinite. He ended up saying, be careful of the thought seed you plant in the garden of your mind, for seeds will grow after their kind. Good thoughts bring forth good.
Exactly.
And bullshit thoughts rot your meat. So we do have to we have to be careful what we put in our mind. So I amen you on that. J.R. Lawson. Thank you for your. Mr. Lawson, thank you again. And let me tell you something, folks. Thank you. Lawson says thank you for the reply, Mr. Fuller. Also, to ask questions and to avoid confusion. First, he wasn't challenging the statement, asking us why not quote him exactly. I 100,000% agree. And I encourage, now we're still working on the multiple ways to engage in dialogue. I know during the blog talk show, we had the telephone system, people would call in and we engaged them directly. And we're still working on other ways, different ways of communication to increase the engagement. And so one of the things that Mr. Fuller was also adamant about, he does not want confusion. He said, when you have an opportunity to eliminate confusion, is to ask questions. Now, I tell you, I've really taken that to heart. If you want to check somebody, if somebody in front of you talking a bunch of gibberish and nonsense, you go and eat, like Mr. Fuller said, get in that question lane.
Right.
It's going to shut them up, and it's going to shut them up, or they're going to move on. Or guess what? You might even get some construction out of it. You may get some constructive activity by asking those questions. So,
hello, Moto.
Go ahead.
that
was AP calling. AP, I'm on the air. I can't talk to you right now.
Hey, tell AP I called him back yesterday. Tell AP has been one of our great followers. He was on Blog Talk with us when Mr. Fuller was there for 5 years. And AP is I'm going to talk to AP about how we can do some things to improve this show. So our minds are open. Nothing is chiseled in stone. So tell AP I did call him back yesterday, and we'll get him. We'll put our heads together soon.
Okay, I hope you heard that, AP. If you're listening to the show, let me get into this. Introduce the if it's okay with you, Gate.
Go right ahead, Mr. Robert.
The person of the week is Al-Bukhari II. As a matter of fact, Mansa Al-Bukhari II. He is related to possibly the richest man in the world, a black man, by the name of Mansa Musa, who was an emperor in Mali, in the kingdom of Mali. Anyway, Mansa Musa was and did do voyages here into what is commonly called the Northwestern Hemisphere, at least 200 years before Christopher Columbus. And that also is documented. So they always told us 1492. Well, if it was 200 years before that, then it was what? In the 1300s that Mansa Al-Bukhari II was here and established trade routes among the indigenous African people who were already here and established. But when the Christopher Columbus and them came in, of course, you know what they did with the raping and the robbing and the changing of what was already here to fit the narrative that they wanted to fix, wanted to put in place. So they destroyed whatever was here so that this system would firmly be in place, a system of oppression, the system of doing people wrong, mistreatment. And so, yeah, Al-Bukhari II, a great leader very, very rich. See, they don't. The people who perpetrate this do not want you to know, or do not want us to know about our history. Men and women, great queens, which hopefully we'll get into, like Khalifa, which I understand California is named after, and so forth. They do not want you to know because knowledge is power, and they want to minimize you to make you understand that you're nothing, which is not true, because you have a treasure in this earthen vessel, which we call the body. But they don't want you to know that. Okay?
And that's solid. That's golden information. And we have to go back and, I mean, history. I'm going to just harken back to something I hit on earlier, is that one day, I'm not going to get Dr. Kingish on you, but I'm not going to say I have a dream, but I can't imagine a day when actually history is told like it really happened.
Yeah.
And, but we can't expect those who have a vested interest in misinformation to be the history tellers.
Yes.
And that's been a mistake. That's been a mistake that has plagued us for many years, Mr. Bobby. Malcolm knew it, Dr. King knew it, and a lot of our leaders,
right,
on the ancestors, knew this. So we're going to have, that's one of the areas we're going to pick up the mantle.
Exactly. This is why, any information that I dropped, I also have verified it. But speaking about Abu Khari II, if you don't look that up or don't want to look that up, you can also look up in the book by Dr. Ivan van Sertima, which was entitled "They Came Before Columbus." Mm-hmm. Very, very good book out there to read, because there's knowledge, in that. And the supremacists want to divide and conquer you by destroying all that. There was a book I gave to a friend of mine by Chancellor Williams called "The Destruction of the Black Civilization," which I think that should be one of the books on your coffee table. The Destruction of the Black Civilization. This is no joke. This is what they have done. You don't want to do that. Gate, you said you had something for Mr. Fuller that you was going to play, or what are
Absolutely.
we doing next? Yeah.
What we're going to do next, Mr. Bobby, what I've been trying to do is take some of Mr. Fuller's exact words and give them a modern, contemporary context, and try to back it up with some facts and figures that we can use it to apply to our daily lives. The first show we did, we talked about, we asked the question, are none or Black women the most abused people on the planet? And we put out a presentation with some statistics. Last week, we talked about, is debt the new form of slavery? And once again, put out some statistics and some information. And these words came right out of Mr. Fuller's mouth. Now, the information that I'm going to pair with Mr. Fuller, this is my own interpretation of Mr. Fuller's words, to kind of give it a more contemporary context that we can actually go out here and apply. I mean, it's one thing to hear the word, but to hear the code, but how can we apply this? How can we apply it to get justice? And this is my own. Now, like I said, this is not Mr. Fuller's PowerPoint. This is my own interpretation of justice and the words that Mr. Fuller has left with us. So what I'm going to do, we're going to take a quick 60-second break and come back. The next words you hear will be an interview Mr. Bobby had with Mr. Fuller back in September of last year. So hang on a second. We'll be back in a minute.
If you do not understand white supremacy, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you do understand will confuse you. In all of these 9 areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Anywhere on the planet, minute by minute, day by day, all of the time, all of the time, all of the time.
Mr. Fuller, what is on your mind for us today?
People making contacts that are unnecessary. Everybody's on their cell phone. So what the code says, what I advocate, because you make all these contacts, it's just one standard. Every time you make contact with anybody, family members and whomever, doesn't make any difference who it is, white people, black people, any kind of people. You make contact on a phone or in person. You just strike up a conversation with someone riding the subway or whatever. You should come away from that contact having transacted some type of information that produced, and it's just two words, a constructive result. Otherwise, do not, under any circumstance, make a contact with anybody. Why? Because too many things are said and too many conversations that wind up not producing a constructive result. And this happens too many times, and it leads to what? More problems that you had before you made that contact. Or someone contacts you. You can ask them, like, politely, what is this conversation going to be about? And is it designed to produce a constructive result? And if so, what kind of constructive result? And for whom? So you want to know this. If people say, Fuller, I mean, come on. I mean, people just talk and would, yes. And people complain about all of their contacts, for the most part, or some of them, or any of them. Why not have a code of your own where every contact that you make with everybody, you come away from having made that contact on the phone or otherwise, saying, I gained something and I didn't lose anything. And what I gained is going to produce something either for the person I was talking to, produce something constructive, or the person who was talking to me, or a combination of both. But black people, in fact, all people, should stop having contacts with anybody unless they come away from that contact with a constructive result. That's rock bottom code, or at the top of every code that everybody throughout the planet should have. Then maybe we can have some of these things that's going on like in the Middle East and Russia and all like that not even happen. Because all kinds of terrible things happen as a result of contacts. I saw somebody on television, and it doesn't have to be just on the phone, which is the way it usually does in this day and time, because everybody's on the cell phone, it looks like, 24/7, nonstop. I mean, in the schools and whatnot, they can't teach or anything, so I've heard, on the kind of everybody wants to be talking on the phone. In order to do what? If you're not gaining something, suppose every time you picked up your phone and then had a 10-minute talk, or a 5-minute talk, or a 2-minute talk, $1,000 went into your bank account. Because there are some people on the planet who do just that. Now find out how that works. Now we're talking. Because I think $1,000 for a 5-minute call in your bank account, if you got one, would be a constructive result. But you talk all day long, and when you finally make the final talk, after you've talked to 30 people, you're mad about everything. And much madder than you were when you started out making the contacts, which was almost the moment you woke up in this day and time, from what I have heard. I'm not familiar with it because I don't even have a phone that makes that kind of contact. I mean, my phone is, when you see me on the phone, it's practically for emergency or something. Or you got to catch a cab or something. I mean, I'm very, very old-fashioned, but that's me. When you're talking, you're not talking just to be talking. In the old days, back during Depression time, and I was there, I mean, that phone in my grandmother's house, it rang about once every 2 months. that was for business only. When I was very young, we couldn't be on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
That's for grown-ups, talking on the phone. You know, get off that phone. That's costing me money. That phone bill was 75 cents this month. I don't want to hear no more about this. That's the way it was, and so. But that's me, and I'm old-fashioned. I know these are new times, but I hear people complaining. People committing suicide I've seen on television about a conversation. Now, how does that happen? Young people going to school and then go that evening and commit suicide about a conversation? I mean, what was said? I don't know how that works, but somebody does.
Somebody does, yes.
People. Now, that's what's on my mind this morning.
All right.
The code calls it no contact, no conflict.
Mr. Fuller, what is...
Mr. Bobby, you heard Mr. Fuller. He said it plain as day. No contact, no conflict. You know what, Miss Bobby, I've some people get on my case because I don't spend a lot of time on the phone. When I do contact, generally it's by email or text. And I think one of the reasons I use the email and text is more often than it. One is brief. I can get straight to the point, and I can go back and review, make sure I'm using the right word. If I said something that I didn't mean to say, I can clear it up and say, I didn't mean to say that. That was a mistake. And so I have been a student of the concept of minimizing contact unless I have something constructive to get done when I do. It's plain and simple as that. I'm not going to just, I mean, of course, I got family members, I got friends. We might just shoot a fat every now and then. But just contact for contact's sake. I have stuff to do. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I have stuff to do.
All righty. You mentioned last week, and I got a lot of calls and a lot of emails about that. We were talking about, you were talking about debt. And by the way, I gave AP your number, or rather the link to get on. So hopefully AP can give you a call. He was saying that he was having problems getting on. Usual suspects are always in play. I tried to tell that to Miss Love. Nothing is going to be perfect here, so don't expect it to be. It's going to be messed up. But anyway, two things I want to bring out. Anybody that has 41 cents in your pocket, a quarter, a dime, a nickel, and a penny, I want you to pull that out just for a minute, and I want you to line them up with the quarter first, the dime, the nickel, and the penny. And when you line them up, you'll notice, one thing you notice offhand before you count it up or total it up, it's 41 cents. But notice how the heads of the quarter, of the dime, and of the nickel, how they are pointing left. But the penny is pointing a different direction. It's pointing right. Now, what does that mean? I have no idea. But I noticed that observation one time, and I noticed that Black folk are usually last on everything. So maybe it sends a subliminal message. You know, I don't know, because I certainly don't think of myself as being less than anymore. But at one point I did, part of the indoctrination program. And then the last thing I wanted to say about the debt, as you were talking last week about that, if you, and I had it right in front of me here, but it's not anymore. If you take a penny, just 1 cent, and you multiply that, you double it every day, do you know how much money that you would have at the end of the day, Gate?
So there's an exponential configuration going on there, but I'm going to guess it's going to be a lot.
Yes, you'll have over $10 million just for 1 penny. If you double it every day, I didn't believe it, but I had to do it.
Every day for how long?
Just for 30 days.
What?
Yeah, take 1 penny and just double it. Today you had a penny, tomorrow's 2 cents, the next day is 4 cents, then 8 cents, and so forth. You're going up, and then it really starts to take off.
I need to go crack this piggy bank sitting up on my shelf over here.
Yeah,
Make me $1 million.
We have to learn how to invest in our communities. That's why we don't have any money, because we take it and invest it in other communities while they can come in our communities and open up stores and everything, and have and still do. But you can't go in their communities and do that, because what? They won't support you. So we have to learn how to support ourselves. And one way of doing that is just taking basics. Now, I'm not no financial guru. This is below basics 101. It's probably 0.87. But the point is trying to get us to study and to invest in ourselves with different strategies. Find the lowest or find the highest bank where we can put our money in to have it saved. The saving money. One United Bank is one. I know we have the Adelphi Bank here too, with interest that pays it close to 5%. I'm invested in one called Synchrony, and theirs is at 4-point-something%. You need to do that to have your money work for you instead of you working for your money. There are many out there. I was teaching a seminar this week about that. You know, how to do that. You got to look this up. Nobody's going to hand it to you. Look it up and see what's out there. Research it and find out what works for you so that you can learn to invest in yourself. And I like what you said last week, Gate, when you said you looked at your circumstances and realized you didn't have to have that new car or you invested in yourself. You didn't have to have things that were new. So what you did was you began to cut back. And that's part of it, cutting back and realizing what you must do in order to have, instead of just spending it on everything and being in debt. That was a good point you made last week.
Well, you make a good point too, Mr. Bobby. One thing that I like, sometimes I'll inject my own lessons learned. And I remember I spent over 30 years working in corporate America. And what I decided after 30 years, that I would take that knowledge and bring it back to my community. And so I was a marketing business developer. And so my job was to go out here and make these people some money. And I also realized that a big part of that was really changing people's mindsets and creating needs, creating needs into wants, things that turning wants into needs, things that people really didn't need. Part of my job as a marketer was to go out and make these wants so powerful that they actually felt like they needed it. And so I actually felt guilty. I felt so bad about it that I left corporate America and made it my life purpose to go out and try to undo some of the damage that I did, really, to some of my own people. Because when I'm out here trying to create this atmosphere for people going out spending their money on cars and these assets that don't appreciate and all this foolishness, and of course everything I was doing in corporate America wasn't about hurting Black people or people like that. But I'm saying it's a mindset that you have to create. You have to create this fertile ground in order for the marketers and the people who are trying to part you from your money. And so I've spent the next 20 years really trying to help people. I'm a business developer, so one of my raison d'etre, my reasons for being, is to help people start businesses. I'm an adjunct professor, and I teach how to grow a business, how to start a business. I teach people how to market. I teach people how to advertise. I teach people how to use the internet, how to use social media and not let it use them. So this debt we talked about last week, I do liken it to like a new form of slavery, because it has some of the same debilitating effects. Once it gets its hands on you, once it gets its grip on you, it's hard to get away. And even once you think you're free, you realize there's always something calling you back. It's always calling you back.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that show is available. You can go back and listen all of the shows. You can go to your Facebook account, and you can also go to the Produce Justice Facebook account and the YouTube channel, or you can just go to the website, producejustice.com. While you're there, if you want to pick up a book, we're sending out the books. We got a big shipment of books in a couple of weeks ago, and we're moving a lot of books. And so some of the worries that you hear on here, the worries that we're talking about, this justice and the code, it all emanates. Mr. Fuller, like Lawson said earlier, Mr. Fuller left the code book behind. We don't have to guess. We don't have to reinvent the words that he said. He actually put them in right now. We can interpret them and discuss them like we do on this show. But Mr. Fuller left it in black and white in 3 books. You can get that book by going to producejustice.com. And also you can tune into this show and share it and tell other folks to come on in. And we will be reaching out to people like AP and others who's gonna take people's insight and keep massaging this show and get it to a point where we can engage. We want everybody to get involved, and we like your comments. Right now, we're taking your comments in the feed, and so if you have something to add to the show, we'll give you a read. As Gerald Lawson said, he's giving some financial advice. Always live below your salary. Pay yourself with saving contributions. Why? Because everyone else takes a cut of your pay before you get to see what's left.
You know what, Gay? And he's right, because for years, I never paid myself. I didn't understand that until I understood it. You have to pay yourself. So I developed a program called the 30/70, where I take 10% of my income for, let's just say religious purposes, 10% for me, which I live off of, just for me. Then I take the other 10%, which is investing, and put that away, or savings or whatever, into these accounts that draw interest. Of course, I'm taxed, but that's okay. I submit my IRS form, so I'm in compliance with that. But I live off of the 70%, which means that I have a couple of pennies, and I had to learn that, because if not, as this brother was saying, you have to learn how to pay yourself. And I was surprised that I didn't know that simple thing, and I did that for years and never had any money, and always in debt because I didn't have any money. I didn't know what to do. See, money had me. I didn't have money. You have to take control of that. Speaking about that in this sense here, evidently AP is having some problems with that. AP, I'm on the air right now, which I just told you. I gave you the site or the link that you could link and ask Mr. Gatewood your questions and so forth that you want to do. This is the new format right now. It is 1 hour. That's just the way that it is. Now, it could change in the future. I have no idea. But we are stretching out, trying to find what works best for this format. And that goes for anybody else that may be having difficulty in listening to the show or viewing the show. And now you can put your comments in. Now, that's all I can do for you, brother. I can't do any more for you.
But Mr. Bobby, the link, now, if you go to producejustice.com, what we've done on the website, we've embedded a code. We use an embed code that actually pulling that information from YouTube. So once you click on that, you can actually expand if there's a button down at the bottom, you can expand that and go directly to YouTube, and you can put your comments on the YouTube feed, and then we can actually see your comments on the air.
Yes.
So we're but like you said, if you just want to view the show and not deal with social media, you can go straight to the website and you will see the shows. It's on the second. You scroll down, I think one screen down. You see the books when you first get there, but right under that you'll see us talking on the screen on your YouTube, on your website. I was one more thing on the debt, Mr. Bobby, and I realized that just like when you're trying to attain justice or any type of life-changing element, it requires a mindset shift. And for many years, I had been convinced by the forces that I had to get a new car every couple of years. I had to wear a certain label of clothes. And I had even gone to the point where I was actually smoking one day. And one day, it's like the mindset, I had been working on my mind. And one day the switch flipped. I threw the cigarettes out the window. I didn't go through any 12-step program, didn't wear any patches, didn't do any of that kind of stuff. I threw the cigarettes out the window when I realized I had been played. Yep. I mean, really, I had been played in full.
April Fool.
And then what I did, Mr. Bobby, to kind of right this wrong, I said, now I need to put myself on some type of regimen.
Yes.
So just like you said, like I found one of these high interest savings account. I was paying like 4.5%.
That's right.
And I would put money in that before I would eat. I would say, if I have to go hungry this week, I'm going to make sure a certain amount of money goes in this account.
That's right.
And it takes that kind of discipline. This is not something you have to decide to do on a weekend. It's okay, I'm not going to go out this weekend, and then next week you go out and eat twice as much. No, you need a mindset shift.
Exactly. And you have to be consistent with that in every area of people activity. Every area. Thought, speech, and action. You got to be consistent with it, which means you have to stay focused. It can't be a selfish agenda that you're doing this because you're trying to get some advantage or some gain. It will not work for you. We're talking about compensatory justice. Yeah, you can throw in reparations and all that stuff, but this is where we are at right now. So what do? We deal with it because this is where it is at. It's not going to go away because you marched this or you did this or because you said that. It's going to go away by you being consistent in telling the truth. And then not only telling the truth, thinking the truth and then acting truthfully in everything that you do or say or not say. Because if you don't, then it becomes a testimony of your life. So let your testimony of your life be sure, be consistent. Somebody said, to thine own self be true.
Yep. Let me give some comments coming in,
Yeah.
Mr. Bobby. I'm not going to try to say the name, but we put it on the screen. The white
That's my
supremacists
boy.
make money,
Uh-huh.
makes the money, and then they tell non-white people exactly what that money is worth. Under slavery, all black or non-white people are money.
It's true. I read that.
SWAT D says on code. Breeze Connections said, read the book Money, Modern Money Mechanics. All right. And J.R. Lawson is constantly dropping knowledge today. He said, if employed, get the max employer retirement contribution. He said he took public transportation in Los Angeles for 30 years and retired in his 20s. Man, congratulations.
In his 50s.
Think about the money he saved on gas and parking. Boy, see, that's that mindset shift I'm telling you about.
Mindset.
You can't.
And then, you know what?
Mm-hmm.
And then, Gabe, when you start doing that, then you'll start getting into the secret things like the straw man. You know, when all your mail comes in all caps, and then all the mail that's not important comes in a lowercase. I did the study on that, and it's something else. But a lot of people don't, because they don't want you to believe in that. But what about your birth certificate? Anyway, that's a whole another show. And
but you know what, Mr. Bobby? Mr.
Yeah.
Bobby, what you're saying and what we've been saying today, most of this goes back to being on code.
Yes. I
could sit here and write off 50 different things that I personally think you could do that may have applied to me. And like J.R. Lawson has dropped some gems. You've dropped gems. We have somebody who ordered all 3 books last week. But the key is, when you're not sure, we can't all go out here and hire a psychiatrist tomorrow, or psychologist, or start a business, or do everything the right way because we can't remember it all. The key is to get a code that tells you how it's going to work every time. And that's something Mr. Fuller was very big on. No, we can't remember everything to do in every possible situation. But if you get on a code that is applicable, particularly in the 9 areas of activity, then some of that confusion will dissipate.
And ask questions.
Ask questions, that's right. Ask questions, get in the question lane. And like you said,
we're not gonna get it right all the time, but you continually ask questions so that you can know and understand what's going on instead of being always in a state of perpetual confusion. You don't want that, because you can be dominated when you're in that state, Gabe.
Amen. Mr. Bobby?
Yes, sir.
We've come to the end of the road today. But it's not the end.
We have to go?
I think one of these globalists, Winston Churchill, said, it's not the end, it's not the beginning of the end, but it's the end of the beginning. So, last words for you, Mr. Bobby.
Okay. Last words is be consistent in what you are doing and make sure that you tell the truth using the TSA, not the Transportation Safety Administration, but thought, speech, and action. Stay focused in that area, because you don't want to grow up negative seeds. You want to grow up positive seeds.
All right, folks, that's going to wrap it up for today. Once again, keep in mind the words of Mr. Fuller. No contact, no conflict. If you're going to contact somebody, make sure it has a constructive objective so you can get constructive results. If you get confused along the way, ask questions. And as I stated earlier today, this is the this strange holiday, April Fool's Day. And so dispel this fanciful notion that the people who have proven time and time again that they're not like you. They have a different agenda. So we have to collectively marshal our resources to make sure that we find our own justice
Yes,
As Malcolm said, by any means necessary.
by any means necessary. All right, Gate.
It's going to wrap it up for today. We'll be back next week, same time, right here on the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Bobby. And I'm Gate. And we will see you next week.
All right, have a good week.
If you do not understand white supremacy, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you do understand will confuse you. In all of these 9 areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Anywhere on the planet, minute by minute, day by day, all of the time, all of the time, all